Welcome back to a new lecture. And in this lecture, we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, a problem and a habit that most of you probably go through on a daily basis sometimes, the habit of procrastination. I cannot tell you and I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to regulate your habit of procrastination. I didn't say to eliminate because you really can't eliminate the habit of procrastination for good. You just can't. Sometimes you're going to do it, but you need to regulate it in a way that it doesn't affect your day to day life. It doesn't affect you working towards your goals and your vision. And, when I talk about procrastination, people usually say that, I don't have this problem. I always do my assignments on time. I always submit my work projects on time. But procrastination is a lot deeper than that. You can procrastinate on your finances. You can procrastinate on your relationships. I'll give you examples. You have, let's say, debt, all right? I know a lot of people, and they keep procrastinating on it for years. For years, they have debt, and they keep making the minimum payments instead of dealing with it and starting to pay off the debt. Or in relationships, maybe you have some problems with your partner, some things that, you don't really appreciate, some things that you want to talk to him or her about it at one point in time, but you keep procrastinating. You say, it's not the right time. I'll just do it tomorrow. I'll do it another day. And you've been doing that for such a long time that it's starting to affect your relationship. These are all forms of procrastination. It's one of the biggest problems that people can go through because we're not really aware of the extent of procrastination. And once you pick up the habit of procrastination in one area in your life, you can start applying the habit of procrastination into different areas in your life. And before you know it, this little habit turned into a major problem. So let's look at how we can deal with procrastination once and for all and regulate it so it doesn't affect your life. First off, understanding procrastination, kind of a little definition for those of you who don't really know what procrastination is, but I assume most of you do. Procrastination is the art of avoiding necessary tasks and instead shifting the focus to more pleasant and satisfying ones. The reason I said the word art is because we can really get creative with procrastination. You can give yourself a lot of creative excuses on why you should procrastinate and why you should do this later. And procrastination is not entirely due to lack of self-motivation or laziness or incompetence. There might be different sources underlying the habit of procrastination. And scientifically speaking, procrastination causes actual physical problems because, I'll give you a really quick example. Some people, they start feeling, let's say, some pain in their left arm, and they knew that the pain is getting more severe every day, and they know that they have to go to the doctor and get it checked, but they don't. They procrastinate on it. They say, I'm fine. I'll just go to the doctor tomorrow or the day after, and they keep procrastinating on it, and they go to the doctor, and he's like, there is some serious problems here. If you came 2 weeks earlier, the damage would have been a lot less. And that's the moment where you're really going to regret that you procrastinated on going to the doctors. So the pain centers of the brain light up when a procrastinator is on a dreadful task. Because it's a habit and because you got used to it, your subconscious brain, your neural pathways will automatically trigger the habit of procrastinating. And when someone is confronted with pain, they don't voluntarily approach it, but they try to avoid it altogether. We talked about this. Human beings tend to avoid pain and embrace pleasure. If you want to sit down and do something that's boring, something that you're not enjoying, something that's bringing you discomfort, you're going to look for ways to avoid it. You don't want to confront it, but you have to. You have to confront it if you want to regulate and overcome procrastination. So, talking a bit about the elements of procrastination, biology, psychology, and neurology. First off, procrastination is more of a battle between the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex. The limbic system is your subconscious brain that deals with emotions that want to, embrace pleasure and move away from pain and discomfort, and the prefrontal cortex, which is basically your conscious brain that has your willpower and your discipline. And just a quick thought, your discipline and your willpower, it's not an unlimited resource, and you know that. It's like a battery, right? You wake up in the morning and you're ready to do everything you need to do. You have your discipline, you have your willpower, and you're ready to go. And then you start your day, and of course, you need to use your willpower to do some everyday tasks. And before you know it, you get back home at night and you're drained. And if people go on a diet, for example, you say, I want to stop eating fast food or carbs or whatever, nobody's going to wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to order a big meal from McDonald's or I'm going to order a large pizza. It doesn't happen. But guess what? When they come back at night and they're tired and they're drained and they don't feel like cooking, they usually tend to relapse and eat something unhealthy or some fast food at night, not in the morning, because at night they don't have willpower to overcome it. And the psychology behind procrastination, so the prefrontal cortex, it controls planning and decision making, while the limbic system is a set of brain structures containing the pleasure centers, which is what we talked about. This is why it's also psychologically challenging. And talking about neurology, the limbic system usually wins due to lack of development in the prefrontal cortex, thus leading to procrastination, which can, through repetition, create neural pathways to reinforce the behavior. When you keep doing it over and over again, you are reinforcing the neural circuits and neural pathways until it becomes a lifestyle where you procrastinate on literally everything. So let's talk a bit about what you can do. So let's talk about some methods you can use to regulate the habit of procrastination. And if you know that, you suffer from that habit and that it's just affecting your life too much, make sure you take notes of what I'm about to tell you, because these are methods you can use that I've used with a lot of my clients, and it was very effective for them to regulate procrastination and actually control it instead of it controlling them. So first, breakdown, or as I like to call it, the breakdown and countdown method. Break down large tasks into smaller tasks that are manageable and easier to achieve. Use the power of the domino effect. And what's the domino effect for those of you who don't know? If you put a domino that's the size of, let's say, a little pencil, and then you put another domino behind it that's a bit bigger, and then another one that's a bit bigger and bigger and bigger, till it gets to the point where the domino is the size of the wall, right? If you knock down the first domino, it will knock down the one after it. And the second one will knock the third will knock down the fourth, and so forth until they knock down the huge piece of domino, which is the size of the wall. This is the domino effect. Now, if you put the little piece of domino that's the size of the pencil, and you knock it down, trying to knock down the big piece of domino, which is the size of the wall, you're not going to be able to even move it. But if you break that down into manageable tasks, as I said, let's say, give you a quick example. You have an essay, right? You have an essay or work project, and it's a big essay or big work project. And you think that you need to sit down and finish all of it at once. This is going to be challenging. It needs a lot of discipline and a lot of willpower, and sometimes you don't have that. So what do? You break it down. You say, first, today I'm going to write the introduction, the table of contents and the introduction. Tomorrow, I'm going to, start writing the actual body of the essay. And the third day, I'm going to write a conclusion and I'm going to review the essay quickly. And on the fourth day, I'm going to do some proofreading and I'm going to finalize it. When you do that, it's a lot easier to manage, because instead of having to sit down and work for 10 hours straight, you have to sit down for 2 hours every day for 5 days, which is a lot easier. So keep going with the breakdown process until you hit the sweet spot you're looking for, until you hit that sweet spot where you stop procrastinating. And the second method is called prioritizing. It's not really a method, it's kind of like common sense. Pick out your priorities and start working on the most essential tasks first, while your willpower can still help you. And not just, the most important, but also the most challenging. oftentimes people set their to-do list. And on the to-do list, there's a lot of like small tasks that are easy, and there are a couple tasks that are a bit bigger and one that is huge. And what people do is they start with the smaller tasks because, it's easier and they can get them done faster, and they leave the bigger tasks till later. But later on, they don't have the willpower and motivation to do them, so they start procrastinating on them. And it's not how it works. First, you need to work on your priorities, and you need to first start working on the big, challenging tasks first, while your willpower and discipline can still help you. Because afterwards, when you have, 4 or 5 things left on your to-do list and each one of them takes 10 to 15 minutes, it's easier to manage those than having to sit down and work for 2 or 3 hours. Now, another element that causes a lot of people to procrastinate is distractions. So, what do you usually do when you procrastinate? Ask yourself. Actually, write down a list of things you do when you procrastinate. Why do you procrastinate? Do you want to go play video games? Do you want to, go out with friends? What do you do when you procrastinate? And identify those elements and try to eliminate them or set, limits to them. Set them as rewards. Set it as a reward for when you finish the tasks you're working on. Take advantage of the availability bias. And I talked about this before. If you don't remember what it is, basically, when you're feeling discomfort or stressed out, your brain is going to start scanning your environment to see what you can use to satisfy yourself and get out of this discomfort. If you're going on a diet and you start craving food and you want to eat something and you want to get off your diet, if you have a drawer in your kitchen that's filled with chocolate and candy and chips and it's available to you, when you don't have enough willpower, you're just going to break and you're going to go and you're going to eat them. But when they're not there, and instead you open the drawer and it's filled with fruits and veggies, for example, then you don't have an option. You're going to have to eat those because the other option is not really available. Now, the fourth thing I want to talk about, which is planning. It's kind of, it's similar and it's kind of correlated to prioritizing and breakdown and countdown method, which is, failing to plan is planning to fail. When you break down the task into different chunks and blocks, make sure you add them to a timeline. You need to have a schedule to keep your sense of accomplishment and accountability. Once you finish the first task, you put a little check mark, and this will give you this push of motivation that you need to finish the next one and the next one. This is the domino effect. Again, it's all connected. These are methods that shouldn't be used separately. These are methods that are connected, interconnected, and correlated, that you need to use them together. Lastly, conditioning. Use methods and exercises to reinforce the conditioning and overcome the habit of procrastination. And we will look more into those in further lectures. We're going to talk about some methods called, for example, we have the bracelet method, we have the 1-2-3 method, the ABC method, and we're going to talk about those in the applicable sections. So if you tried the first 4 and they don't work, maybe you need to rely on conditioning. And you'll find that in further lectures. And when I get to it, I'm going to be talking about procrastination as an example, and make sure that you also take notes of that, because if those 4 don't work, then you can switch to conditioning and see which one is working best. However, I can tell you right now that I've used those 4 methods with a lot of people, and the majority of them were able to use them and overcome the habit of procrastination. When you know you need to do something and you write it down and it's right there in front of your face, you're going to feel more the sense of you're going to push yourself to actually do it because it's in front of you and you know that you need to deal with it now, not later, and you end up doing it if you reinforce the habit properly. And again, the goal is to regulate, not eliminate. Don't tyrannize yourself. Try to negotiate with yourself. If you sit down and you want to, try working on something and you just can't seem to focus, you can't seem to find the motivation, literally have a conversation with yourself. Ask yourself, talk to yourself. Tell yourself you know that you need to do this. You know that you need to finish that. Why are you not doing it? Right? When you start talking to yourself, you'll start noticing that there's something inside of you that will speak back. You'll start to identify the underlying emotions, the real reason why you're procrastinating, and you can negotiate. say, all right, look, I understand that. Literally have a conversation with yourself. I understand that, but let's finish that. Let's finish the task that we have in hand, and then we'll do whatever you want to do. We'll go play video games. We'll go out with friends. We'll do this. We'll do that. I'll reward you, right? And then when you do that, you'll start finding yourself moving towards a healthier habit, towards a healthier path in regulating the habit of procrastination. So, I hope you guys found this lecture to be interesting, and I hope you got a lot of information out of it. I'll see you all in the next lecture.